to like to eat?
Halo everyone, halo semuanya.
Hai.
Selamat datang di episode pertama di Tanya Professor, salah satu seri dari vlog dari Ewhain Indonesia yang bertugas atau membantu kalian untuk bertanya-tanya menjembatani komunikasi dengan profesor-profesor yang ada di Ewha. Untuk episode 1 kali ini kita sudah bersama dengan salah satu profesor yang pastinya sudah tidak asing lagi buat kalian semua, adalah Profesor Hannah Jun dari GSIS, kemudian Director dari International Business Program GSIS. Halo.
Hai.
Oke. Seperti yang sudah kita sama-sama tahu, Profesor Hannah Jun ini juga salah satu profesor yang sangat aktif di sosial media, mulai dari Instagram, punya juga YouTube channel. Oh, you actually understand like. So we will be trying to like ask her about the question you guys have given to us. So please stay tuned on this video. Okay, before we dive into the question, I think even though like everyone already knows you, but like I'd like to hear like more of like short introduction, or what do you want to share or people to know?
Hi everyone, I'm Professor Hannah Jun. I teach international business here at Ewha's Graduate School of International Studies. Things that you might know or you might not know, I'm a very, very happily married mother. My son is beautiful, and and I encourage my students to be ambitious and to be hungry, and I'm very excited to be here today with Libby and to also join you. So thank you for your questions, and I look forward to a good time.
One question from the MC. Like, please shortly tell us like how did you end up being a professor in Ewha?
Shortly?
No, okay. I mean like please feel free to answer it comfortably.
So I was actually a student at Ewha. So I did my master's here and I did my PhD here. Not back to back. I worked in finance, so investment banking, in between for about 5 years, and I never thought that I'd be in academia. The entry barriers are just so high, and there's so many great candidates, and so many more established and amazing professors. So it's a real honor and a privilege to be here. What can I say? Ewha, I think, has always been my home, and I think my goal is also to make sure our students feel like this is their home while they're here.
Oh, okay. I can guarantee on that. Okay, the first question is, what values does Ewha Womans University look in its applicants?
So it's a very tough question. One of the slogans of Ewha has been Ewha where change begins, and so when we have students who come here, they bring with them a track record of excellence, whether that's in their academic work or in their professional work, but they also want to come here to grow and to learn and to challenge the things that they've done in the past. And so those qualities we're certainly looking for in all great applicants here. And for me personally, I think one of the most important things, especially from students who are overseas, even though it's very difficult to come to a new country and to learn, in a different language oftentimes, I think those who are willing to take the plunge, be a little bit courageous, and also try to adapt as much as possible to a new environment, I think those students end up doing very well while they're here at Ewha. Last but not least, you have to like to eat if you want to be my student. Because I'm a foodie.
Okay.
You can.
This is also a very popular question. Does Ewha actually allow the applicants to pursue a graduate program that is different with like their initial educational background?
Yes, absolutely. And it depends also on which graduate school you're applying to. So I think there are some majors where it might be kind of a more natural fit if you do something, the same major in undergrad, and you're kind of building on that knowledge. We see that quite a bit with hard sciences and some social sciences, but certainly for Ewha GSIS, where we tend to be interdisciplinary in nature, we have a lot of students who come from different educational backgrounds, but they want to find a way to use that past experience and build on that to either pivot to a new career or to just kind of expand their horizons. And so some examples are, I've had engineering students. It's great if you bring a hard skill in, because learning a tool, learning a skill, learning that kind of analytical framework, or that having that basis is great. But I think oftentimes what you find in the hard sciences is it might not be as clear how you're going to use that. And so I think social sciences are great because we really explore the applied kind of portion of that. And if you have something like engineering and I teach something like sustainability or business ethics, then oftentimes we can take that engineering background and blend that into how we can use that for kind of sustainable development or for sustainable development.
Sustainable development.
Sustainable development, very important. How we can. But I think it's as long as you have some sort of idea how you want to build from that background and to expand that in a new way, I think that it really doesn't matter so much what your past has been, as long as we're able to tie that into why you want to be here in the present, and then how you hope to use that in the future.
What a great answer. Like, I hope this answer will be like helpful to you. So it's actually all over. So for people from different background, as it's also came from my own experience, it's okay actually to apply for like another major in graduate school. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. Okay, as we already mentioned that Professor Jun came from GSIS, so this question is more specific to the GSIS context. What sets Ewha GSIS apart from the other GSIS programs in the other university in Korea?
So this is personally, it's a personal opinion. I'm 100% biased.
Okay.
But based on the data.
Okay.
So this is my data-driven insight.
Still data-driven.
If you want to look at rankings, so when the Ministry of Education in Korea did rankings of GSISs, Ewha GSIS is ranked as number 1, but only GSIS ranked number 1 by the Ministry of Education. But I think, in a nutshell, what really separates us from other GSISs is the best curriculum, the best faculty, and the best students.
Okay, so other than the ranks, it's also the best faculty, the best students, and the best curriculums. Okay.
Yeah, I think one measure that we can actually look at, so it's a very objective measure. So among GSISs in Korea, we actually have a kind of understanding among the GSISs. So we can take courses, so our students can take courses at other GSISs, and students from other GSISs can take courses at Ewha GSIS. And one objective measure is, you can see how many students are going out versus in. And by far, I think we have more students coming in to Ewha GSIS to take classes, rather than students going outside of Ewha to take classes at other universities. I know that it's a very tough question because there's so many feelings involved, but I'm convinced we have the best program. And also, when it comes to the quality of the classes, I think faculty to student ratios are also optimal here at Ewha GSIS, which means you get a lot more personal attention, and you also have a lot of kind of collaboration with students and faculty, whether it's research projects or other sorts of research projects.
Okay. Okay, now if we talk about specifically about the international business major, there has been a lot of question about what's actually the biggest difference, the most fundamental difference between the IB program in GSIS and on the MBA program in the other graduate school in Ewha. So what's the major difference between two majors perhaps?
Right, so they're both great programs. Also check out Ewha Business School, their MBA program. I think part of it has to do with Ewha GSIS being maybe not a typical MBA program, in that, again, we have students with a lot of diverse kind of academic backgrounds who want to come here, and not everyone wants to go into industry or the private sector. We have a lot of students who want to go into research or to international organizations, or they also want to be able to minor in other majors within our program. And so for those who are a bit more kind of, I suppose, looking for more opportunities outside of kind of a typical MBA curriculum, I think they tend to resonate with the curriculum at Ewha GSIS. Also, I think at our program, it's 100% everything is in English, and so being immersed in that environment, I think, is something that also separates us from a typical MBA program. And I think, last but not least, we also like to encourage students to engage in research, which might be different from an MBA background, where it might be more kind of case-based and project-based, where you might want to go just back into industry. And so it's much more important in terms of tangible outputs from your work, rather than trying to think about maybe a thesis or building on that for more postgraduate work.
Okay, and also to add for the difference, it's also about the title. Once you graduate for the international business major in GSIS, we will be graduating with the Master of International Studies title. Meanwhile, if you're taking a business major in the MBA, you will be getting the MBA titles in the end after graduation.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I think also a great thing is we have a bit more flexibility in the GSIS curriculum. And so one of the great draws for me as a faculty member was I was able to have a bit more freedom in terms of courses that I could teach based on my research. So things like sustainability reporting, sustainable finance, corporate social responsibility, corporate governance. A lot of that you don't find a lot of in a typical MBA program. It might be a bit too niche or maybe a bit too trendy, but we like to talk about those also in relation to other majors within our GSIS.
Okay, so I will go deeper into the applying process for the prospective students. From your experience, if you have to give like one piece of advice on creating a research plan, because we will need to like explain our research plan during the application, and eventually if we want to write a thesis or like write a paper for the paper term, for example, what is your advice for the student who wants to create a research plan that is both academically rigorous and also relevant to real-world application?
That's a great question. I think when we read a research plan, the good news is we're not expecting you to know everything already. Because if you knew everything already, you wouldn't have to come to graduate school. So we want to see if you're intellectually curious, that you have a clear area of study that you want to pursue while you're here, and that we see that, again, track record of excellence and that genuine kind of interest and pursuit in the application. And so for the research proposal, the best ones that I've seen have been specific. And so I would lean towards please don't try something too general, try to be as specific as possible. And I think you don't have to start with a blank piece of paper, and this is what I tell my students in my class. If you want to do academic research, the best place to start is to look at academic research. And so look at peer-reviewed papers within your field from rigorous journals. Look at what's being discussed right now. What are some of the major research questions that are being studied? And what are some of the gaps that you see in those studies? And the good news is oftentimes they tell you some of the limitations of their studies or what further studies need to be done. And then your goal will be to try to contribute in that way by filling that particular research gap. And I think try to do your homework. Show us rather than tell us. So oftentimes outside of the research proposal, you have kind of a statement of purpose. You can say, I love research. I'm very interested in research, and that's telling us you're interested in research. But I think to show us is a little bit, you're taking the extra effort to show. So for example, you can share about things like prior research that you've done in the past, maybe current research that you're doing, maybe academic conferences or presentations that you've done. And so you don't have to say, I'm interested in academic research, you're giving us evidence of that in your statement. So I do that. Writing.
I see. Okay, this is also a very common question between prospective students who want to continue their graduate study, especially at Ewha. I don't know if it's like very common also in Korea in general, because like in Indonesia it's a very common occurrence, but will the future students will eventually be tasked to just follow the research of the professor, or like will the students later here being a full liberty to conduct research in their own interest?
I think it depends on the university, it depends on the department, and even within the same department, it might depend on the professor. And so there are some professors where, I think, let's put it this way, oftentimes you gravitate towards certain professors because of their area of expertise and what they do very well. And maybe it's their professional experience, but maybe it's the research that they're doing right now. And so naturally, you're probably going to be appealing to them. I'm also also interested in this area. Can I help support you in your research? And so you're able to create a kind of win-win scenario for the advising professor as well as for yourself. I hope you don't try to completely change your area of interest just to match a professor, because that'll be hard, I think, for you personally in the long run. But maybe there's some kind of common ground that you'll be able to find between the two. There are some faculty members, I hear through the grapevine, not naming names, but they might be a bit more particular about the students that they work with and the research areas that they work with, and they might be more direct that they would really like you to work within kind of their sphere of research. And and I know some students who actually prefer that. Sometimes it might be difficult to come up with a research question or an area of expertise, and so if you're getting much more hands-on guidance or micromanagement, I think some students might find that to be more comforting so that they don't have to think about all of those kind of nitty-gritty things. Actually, it's not even really nitty-gritty. It's like big picture, but sometimes they might appreciate more hands-on guidance, whereas if you have a very clear idea what you want to do, you might need to find a professor who would be willing to guide you, at least through methods, even if it's not specifically for that particular topic.